Right now, Pittsburgh's best sports show is about to begin. Call us or tweet us. We've got things to talk about on the Nightly Sports Call.
All right, thanks a lot, Ken, and thank you for tuning in to the Nightly Sports Call. Give us a call tonight, 412-575-2600 is the number. I have Paul Zeise on with me tonight, and we're going to be talking about the Steelers' Mike Mitchell, a questionable hit. It seems like that's getting a lot of traction on social media tonight. And what he talked about, he's going to appeal it, but he basically got hit for a $50,000 fine. Alex Smith said it was flagrant as any hit. And, you know, do you start to question how Mike Mitchell plays? I know Alex Smith has. Some other, players have. But I know he's out there and he just wants to play. I don't think Mike Mitchell is a dirty player. I just think he's really into the game.
Yeah, I don't think he's dirty. I think, that hit was a dirty hit, but I don't know that it was an intentional dirty hit.
Yeah.
So, all of this stuff, we're really splitting hairs here. He's like, I'm not a dirty player. Well, I don't think he's a dirty player. I think he's a guy maybe who sometimes crosses the line here and there, but the reality is that was a dirty hit and it has to be fined. So I don't know what the argument here. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's an emotional player. He gets into the game.
What I'm saying is the outcome of the play was that it was a dirty hit. Whether it was intentional or not does not matter. You still hit the quarterback, in a way that you're not supposed to hit the quarterback, so there has to be a fine. I don't see why people are trying to defend this,
Well, I think he's going to lose his appeal, but it's not fun when you get a $50,000 fine.
Maybe they will
reduce
it a little bit. That's how I can see happening. I mean, maybe they'll reduce it a little bit, but I don't even think that's the case.
Do you think he should change the way he plays at all, or are you fine with?
Just eliminate a couple of those hits. You know what I mean? I think the NFL has made it clear they don't want their quarterbacks getting hurt. Right?
Yeah.
They've made that clear.
Yeah.
They've also made it clear they don't want you using your helmet as a weapon. Out there hitting people with helmet to helmet.
That's what Mike Mitchell does.
You know what I'm saying? And they've also made it clear that if a guy is coming across the middle and he's completely defenseless, they don't want you lighting him up. Mm-hmm. So these are things you have to do. You have to stop doing if you're a defensive player if you don't want to get fined. And here's the thing. Most guys in the league have figured this out. I mean, think about how many of these kinds of things really happen in the course of a Sunday, a weekend of NFL games. What are there, 16 NFL games every Sunday? So you figure 16 times how many tackles happen in, what I mean?
Yeah.
100, say 100. That's 1,600 tackles. There might be 5 or 6 bad ones. Maybe 10 out of 1,600. And so it's not a problem. Guys have adjusted to it, but you still got to get it, to a point where you adjust a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with the way Mike Mitchell plays. I actually kind of like it. I think he's an emotional player. I think players feed off of that. There's some questionable calls, throughout his career, maybe a couple times so far this year. Maybe bad timing with some of these two. Like that one, you could say the timing was bad, but they were going after the quarterback. And that was a big play, and it kind of changed the momentum a little bit, the timing of that. So I don't mind what he does, but it seems like sometimes the timing's off when he does it.
Yeah, I think that's the key. To me, I think all of those plays, if you clean them up, you can still play football the way he wants to play. You can still go out and hit guys the way you want to hit them, but you've got to make sure that it's within the rules. Otherwise, you're going to continue to get fined, and eventually the fine will probably turn into suspensions if you continue to get fined. So Mike Mitchell's just got to tone it down a little bit with some of the things he does, but I don't think he's a dirty player. I think Vontaze Burfict is a dirty player.
Yeah, I do
think
too.
When he does stuff like this, he's trying to hurt somebody. That's my definition of a dirty player. I don't think Mike Mitchell's out there trying to hurt somebody.
Yeah, I don't think he's trying to hurt anyone.
I think he respects, the game, and I think he plays hard, and sometimes he might cross the line. But to me, Vontaze Burfict is the kind of guy that wants to hurt somebody out there, and that is a dirty player.
All right, so what do you think is going to happen this Sunday against the Bengals? I mean, I think the Steelers, this is the game that they have to win to stay ahead in the division. I think they've owned the Bengals over the years, and I don't have any concern about Vontaze Burfict and some of these other guys getting in the head of Le'Veon Bell or the Steelers offense. But one of these games, and this could be the game, and it's a home game, which is good. One of these games, this offense kind of has to break out of its whatever it is right now. I mean, you can't score 19 points a game or 18 points a game and expect to win. Well,
they're scoring 19. Remember how they were going to score 30? They're not even
30 plus.
They're not even scoring 20 yet. So, you know, and I think that can come. But they've got to get Martavis Bryant going. I think their offensive line's got to get a little more consistent, and Ben's got to play better than he's played. You know, Roethlisberger had, you know, I thought last game was okay in Kansas City. I didn't think he was great, but he was okay. He was better than he had been. But if they're going to become this high-scoring, explosive offense, he's going to have to really, really take his game to the next level. Part of that is Martavis Bryant. Part of that is McDonald and James and all the tight ends. Part of it is the offensive line. And Le'Veon Bell's going to do what he did last week. If they do that, they can score points. I think the Bengals have a pretty good defense, though. And usually these games, unfortunately, they turn into these, you know, low-scoring, you know, just basically slugfest, you know, ugly kind of 19-16 type of game.
Because the Bengals don't really have an offense either. And Joe Hayden's been really good against A.J. Green throughout his career. And the Steelers have been good against A.J. Green.
It's amazing to me that Andy Dalton is still the starting quarterback in Cincinnati.
Well, they've been good the last couple games, so we'll see what
I know he's gotten to the playoffs, but he's not that good.
At some point, you need a new coach. I mean, you can't go to the playoffs every year and not win a game. So I don't know. I like the Steelers this week too, but you got to keep Ben Roethlisberger under that 300-yard mark, not throwing 40 times a game. Give the ball to Le'Veon Bell. McDonald's definitely got to make some plays. You need a tight end to make some plays for this team right now, and I think you'll start to see things open up a little bit. But I think this offense still has some ways to go, but I think it will get to that 30-point-a-game mark that they thought they would be. All right, we're going to be talking about the Steelers. You can give us a call, anything you want to talk about. 412-575-2600 is the number. Back with your phone calls. Coming up next. Stay right there.